Hey, quick story for you here. We've seen it happen more than once here in the Twin Cities. A deal is moving along just fine, and then right before closing, a furnace issue, an electrical concern, or even a roofing question pops up. And suddenly things get stressful. That's exactly why we created our worry-free closing program at Twin City Heating, Air, and Electric. We send a licensed technician out to check the furnace, AC, electrical safety, water heater, and water softener, coordinate a roof evaluation with a licensed roofing contractor, and provide a full report on all the home's major systems. We can do this during due diligence or even before a home is listed, so potential issues get caught early. If you're a realtor or you're buying or selling a home, there's a simple way to keep things smooth. Twin City Heating, Air, Electric, built here, stays here.
From working in his family's Chinese restaurant, to bartending, to becoming present-day owner of Twin City Heating, Air, and Electric, my father's true superpower is human connection. Now, he's on a mission to capture the most fascinating stories that make up the Minnesota community. You're listening to the Twin City Tales Podcast.
Today on Twin City Tales Podcast, I sit down with husband, father, and owner of Minnesota Stripes, Dan Langton. Dan's story is one of hard work, setbacks, growth, and betting on yourself, from growing up in a Ramsey, Minnesota, to navigating leadership at a young age, to building a respected business through reputation and relationships. This conversation goes far beyond parking lot striping. We talk about learning through failure, finding purpose through the long road, personal transformation, and what it really means to build something the right way. Dan is the kind of guy who doesn't need a spotlight to make an impact. He just quietly puts in the work, takes care of people, and keeps showing up. This is real conversation about business, life, humility, and becoming better through experience. Welcome to the podcast, Dan.
Thanks, Wymond.
How are you doing today?
Doing well.
Good, good. When you think back of growing up in Ramsey in the 90s, what stands out to you the most?
Probably hanging out with my friends. It was the time when you could just go outside and you'd meet up with your friends and run around with them all day.
Yeah.
So we had a good group of friends in the neighborhood. And there were 2 vacant lots. We'd play baseball out in front of my house with the neighbors, or there was another one. Some days we'd just play baseball all day. So that's probably my favorite and most fond memory from growing up in Ramsey.
Yeah, and Ramsey then, it's growing now, but Ramsey then was a little more open space. It still has open space, but...
Yeah, it's a bedroom, rural type community, mostly. They've been putting up a lot more high-density housing, but we grew up on 2 acres. Everybody in the neighborhood had 2, maybe 3 acres, something like that, yeah.
Somebody down the road has a horse on their, their acreage.
Yeah, when I was real young, I think there was still a pig farm that wasn't very far from us that you could smell.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's the beauty of like that northern suburbs. Like if you go into that Ramsey, Elk River, Anoka, and then just even north of there, Oak Grove.
Yep.
Pretty nice along that Rum River.
Yeah, well, and then we also have what everybody's affectionately called the Ramtucky Booms.
Oh.
Because I don't know who owns it now, but it used to be Northrop Grumman. I think it was originally owned by Federal Cartridge, but they have they test bombs and other big things up there just north of Ramsey a little bit.
I don't remember that. I don't really remember that.
Yeah.
So they would test underground. Would they?
I don't think it's underground. It's because I striped it with my previous employer years and years ago, but it's an outdoor range where they test munitions.
Was that right outside of Anoka? Or am I thinking?
It's just north on 47. It's like, it might be in Now Then or St. Francis, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. But when they light off the big stuff, you can hear it and feel it.
Oh, that's pretty awesome. I didn't know that. I grew up in Hopkins, so I never really knew about that.
Yeah.
That's kind of wild.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, when they light it off, did they, have to tell you guys ahead of time because they want to keep an area clear? Or?
No, you'll just hear a boom in the background, and then everybody's dogs start barking. So. Yeah.
It wasn't like tornado watch day where
No.
every Wednesday, those sirens are going to go on.
No, it's Monday through Friday. It's usually 8 to 5, somewhere in there, and when they're doing it all day.
Interesting. See, I didn't know about that. See.
Yeah. Yep.
And then growing up, I know you talked about your work ethic. What kind of work ethic did your parents instill in you? Because we talked a little bit about that.
Yeah.
Living out that way.
We had when I was in second grade, my parents bought a lake place, so we would spend weekends up there, and my dad really takes good care of his stuff, and so we would spend all week making sure the yard was mowed at home and getting everything and all the chores done at home. And then Friday he'd get home from work, we'd hop in the truck and we'd drive to Longville. And then we'd get up there and we would try and spend all night Friday night getting the lawn mowed and getting the lake place all done, because that was a whole nother 2 acres up there, so that we could do something on Saturday, or so that I could do something on Saturday. Dad usually still worked all day Saturday. He'd rather be working on something than fishing. And I would get up when I was finally old enough to take the boat out myself. I would be sure to get up before him and get out and go fishing, because as long as I was fishing, he wasn't asking me to help him with anything. But when I came back, I'd be helping him with stuff all day. But we always had stuff to do up there.
Yeah. And your dad worked for the phone company.
Yep.
Yeah, and not like the phone company of like today, like all those different ones. Like
no, I think he started. I don't know what it was called when he started, but it was maybe Ma Bell or U.S. West. Or
before U.S. West, it was Northwestern Bell.
Northwestern Bell.
I remember
that's probably what it was. Yep.
I remember growing up in the 80s. That was like when I first had my first apartment.
Yep.
That's why I had to pay my phone bill too.
Well, and I always remember it as U.S. West.
Yeah.
And he worked for U.S. West, and he got laid off a few different times over the years, and looked at moving a few different times, but we never did.
Yeah.
Ended up just staying in Ramsey. But one of the jobs he took was doing installation, and he traveled all over. He would drive all over the country, and he'd be installing stuff. He'd be in Colorado or Iowa or somewhere, and then he'd come home on the weekends, and we'd go to the lake. So,
yeah. So you had a pretty good childhood, and you grew up with a few siblings.
Yep, I have 2 older brothers and a younger sister.
Do you think being the youngest, because you're the youngest, right?
I have a younger sister.
One
I'm
younger
sort of
sister.
like right in the middle.
Right in the middle?
Yeah.
Do you think how'd that shape you and how you handle people and conflicts later in life?
That's a really good question. It's so my older brothers are quite a bit older than me. The next one is 6 years, and the oldest one is 9, almost 10 years older than me. So they're full on Gen X, and I got raised by those two, because by the time they were old enough to babysit, my mom went back to work. So in the summers and that, I was raised by those two, but still young enough to basically have done all the Gen X stuff, drink from a garden hose and all that stuff, right? But I would say that we got the raw end of the deal being raised by those guys. We weren't latchkey and left alone. We were tortured by Gen X. So it's like,
but it made you tougher though.
Oh yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I ended up working with my brother for 18 years. So
that's what that was what I was going to get to next. Like working with your brother, right? Like that really helped you with conflict, because there's a balance to working with relatives.
Yeah, we fought quite a bit on the job. We had lots of good time, and we didn't ever come to blows, but we would get loud. We're Irish, so mostly Irish anyways. So but we would argue on the job site, but we worked pretty well together, honestly. So if it had been bad, we wouldn't have done it for 18 years,
That's probably true.
So
was there ever that upper hand of being the older brother? Like, I will kick your keister if you don't listen to me.
No, but there was definitely like like the fact that he had the authority when we were younger, he did definitely carried that into the workplace, later on. So, and I probably just like naturally fell into the subordinate role.
Yeah.
Being the younger brother. So.
Yeah. But was that before you, because we talked about this a little bit, and was that before you worked for the Quest, or was it after?
So no, in high school, I ended up graduating like half a year early, and I went to work for the phone company right away. My dad helped me get a job in there. They were hiring, and they made us take all these tests and whatever. And I ended up getting hired on the phone company for it was a, what was that? Frame attendant job. Just installing POTS line, plain old telephone service, and wiring those up in the CO office, downtown Minneapolis. And then I did that. I was down there only for about 2 weeks, and they sent me to training for 2 weeks over in Plymouth. And then in that time I was at Plymouth, US West changed to Quest. And when I got done with the training, they sent me up to North Princeton. Princeton was like a conglomerate of offices. You covered Princeton, Cambridge, Isani, and North Branch, I think. So, and I ended up working with a lady up there who trained me in to do all the CO tech stuff.
Yeah. So, and they made you a manager by that, quick time, or a leader.
No, not Quest. I wanted to be a CO tech.
Okay.
But Quest wouldn't hire me without going back to school. And I was done with schooling. And the lady had already trained me how to do all this other stuff. So I knew it. So I went and got a job with another phone company after being there for about a year and a half. And that other phone company hired me on as a CO tech right away. They gave me some more tests or whatever. And they're like, oh yeah, you seem to have a knack for this and know what's going on. So they hired me as a CO tech. And I was there for about 6 months, and my boss quit. He was down in Monticello, which is where I was working, and he wanted to go back to Fargo. So he quit, went back to Fargo, and they basically gave me his position, and at 19 put me in charge of like 5 or 6 other people. Yeah.
So basically, no training.
None. Not for managing people.
Yeah.
I had I could do the work. I was really good at the work. At the CO Tech job was like troubleshooting. You'd install new stuff, but a lot of it was like fixing stuff that would break. Customer would call in that their circuit was down or something, and you'd have to test it out and figure out what was wrong with it. I could do that, but the managing of the people, I struggled immensely with. And really failed at it ultimately. Yeah, I ended up getting fired for being a poor manager, basically.
Looking back at that, because now you're 20 years removed from that, pretty much, about
20 something
25
years.
Yeah,
removed
25
from that,
years
probably,
removed.
Yeah.
And you've learned more about leadership because you run a business, you run a team somewhat at times, right?
Yeah, I do now. Yeah.
So looking back at that, what do you wish someone would have taught you then that would have helped a little bit more?
I think a mentor, a mentor would have been good, or any basic training, right? Instead of just throwing me to the wolves. Because when I left there, when I got fired, I took it real personal. I failed at this, and it took me a long time to realize like I wasn't set up for success. That company, and I'm not trying to blame them for anything. It was a small phone company that didn't have a lot of infrastructure, right? But I wasn't given the tools to be successful. And so when I left that, I avoided actually trying to be in a management role again for a long time. It was probably why I stayed with my previous employer, striping with him as long as that I did.
Yeah, so, getting into that, what I mean, how do you go from like, I know you were at Anoka High School,
Yep.
right? And then you took some PSEO classes at the B when it was just coming out, right? It was newer.
Well, so I wanted to do full-time PSEO, and they ended up with a new program. I'm not sure what they call it now. I think it's STEP maybe. But they offered us half days at the tech and half days at the high school. And I was a junior, so I would be able to get like probably between my junior and senior year, I could get a full year's worth in and then only have to pay for 1 year at the tech, and I could come out as what I wanted to be at the time was a machinist. Everybody was telling us we need tons of machinists. There's a shortage of machinists, kind of like they're saying now with electricians.
Wow.
So anyways, I went to be a machinist and went through all of that stuff, and they sort of did that first year, and at the end of the year they said we didn't realize, but we changed from semesters to trimesters or whatever, and you guys are going to be short of having enough time to get full credit for the full year you did here.
At the trade school.
At the trade school. Yeah. So we only got credit for half the year, even though we did all of the work. And they said, well, you could just come back and take the classes again. And I said, no. When my senior year rolled around, I switched from machining to automotive just to do something different. And all of the schools that were there, I think it was Champlain Park, Brooklyn Park,
probably the Blaine,
Coon
Anoka,
Rapids.
and Coon Rapids.
Yeah. There were 4 high schools there. This was Anoka. Well, anyways, but there were like 450 students, and none of them got full credit. None of the students that went there that I know of got full credit for the year that they did there.
And think of that. I mean, they were onto a great idea, because I think back then too, right? Like the social belief is like, if you don't get a college education, you're not going to go anywhere.
Right.
And then they started pushing the trades more again at about at 2009.
Yeah, this would have been like 98.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that was huge. That was a good push. And like you said, right now they have a tough time having electrical school because people. But funny thing is, like, I think that happened like 2-3 years ago.
Yep.
On the HVAC, I just found out the other day, like the HVAC school right now has a waiting list to get in. So if you sign up right now, which is, I mean, I'll date this program, but it's in May. Right now we're in May. But if you hadn't signed up for the North Hennepin Tech School right now, you would not get in until the following year. Like, you would have to skip the fall and get in the winter or next spring, which is just crazy. I mean, well, especially when 3-4 years ago, right after the pandemic, they were having trouble even filling a class and saying we might have to not even have this class anymore here.
Yep.
So it's interesting. And looking back at it and knowing what you do now, what suggestion would you have for a kid that might not go, college isn't for me?
So I actually, it's funny you ask, because one of our friends has a young kid he helps me out all the time at work and at home around the house. He's a good kid, and he wants to be an electrician. And the advice that I give him is find a company that's willing to train you themselves and pay for you to go to school. Because if electricians are in as high demand as they say, most of these companies want you to do things their way, and they want to train you in, and then they'll also send you to school. And I know it's out there. It was out there when I was looking to get into the trades. They're willing to train you up and bring you up, and you'll be way ahead than if you just go try and pay to do it yourself and then go get a job.
We actually do that here at Twin City Heating and Electric. We'll, like, if you come in and you start off as an apprentice and you're like, hey, I want to go to school. Well, we'll pay you as long as you're passing.
Yep.
We'll work out a deal with you that, if you're passing those classes, you might have to pay for them first, or we might help subsidize it, but then we'll reimburse you for that tuition. Because it's just been a kind of a grind to find people, right? And it's been up and down. And I think socially, people have been told, if back in the 80s, 90s, and if you don't go to college, you're going to be a nothing, right? But then they come out of a college and they have like all this loan debt that they have, as we've seen, and they're still only getting a job that's paying $45,000-$50,000 a year. That's barely living wages. How can you move out of your parents' basement on that wage, right?
Especially when you start off with $100,000 or more in debt.
Yeah.
But I think that's a thing that the high schools should be telling these kids is there are companies like yours that are willing to pay for your training.
Yeah.
But I feel like, I know my kids were told, you can just go get a loan. You can go get a loan. And it's like, yeah, but there's a whole nother avenue where you don't have to get a loan. You don't have to pay interest. Somebody else pays it and they pay you to work at the same time.
Yeah.
Like that is the most beneficial thing for all of these kids, in my opinion. And those jobs exist and they're plentiful.
And there is a certain amount that if you really pick it up, like understand it, is schooling that necessary? I always feel like schooling, after I've gotten older, I've realized schooling isn't just giving you the knowledge. It's not really, like, you're going to forget a lot of it. And even me, I went to trade school in the 80s, and I'll tell you right now, probably I learned 5% of what I really needed to know in HVAC. The rest I had to learn in the field and actually doing it, right? I think that piece of paper that they give you, like, here's your certificate for graduating, it just shows that you can learn.
Right.
Like you have the ability to learn.
Yep.
That's all it tells you.
Well, and my uncle, I think he has a 4-year college degree in recreation.
Oh, that sounds like a fun degree to have.
I believe he wanted to be a gym teacher.
Okay.
And he's been the CEO for 2 different electric co-ops.
Oh. Wow.
And he's done he's long retired now.
Yeah.
But he's done, and I really think, like you said, the piece of paper says I'm trainable.
Yeah.
And I don't want to put college against trade schools or anything. You know who Mike Rowe is, I assume?
Yeah.
I listen to a lot of his stuff too, and I think he puts it best, whereas like it's not one or the other. We should be training people to do both. Work with their hands and learn with their brain. Yeah. It's like all of that other stuff, the arts and all that are important too. But they're not important in the same way to everyone, right? A person who's in the trades doesn't necessarily need to know theater, but he's probably a more well-rounded person if he does know some of it anyways.
Yeah.
So, but as a young kid, I wouldn't pay for that education, but I wouldn't not seek it out in some other form. You know what I mean?
That makes really good sense, Dan. And especially now, I know for us, at least my industry or our craft, you're a lot of times front facing, unless you're doing commercial work, you're front facing with the customer, right?
Yep.
And boy, the communication skill is so huge in most of the industries. We like to call it soft skills. And even today, I'm looking for people that have good soft skills that can have the communication, sometimes even over their technical ability, because technical ability, if you want to learn it and you have a technical somewhat know-how, you'll learn it, you'll figure it out, and that's what you're passionate about, right?
Yeah.
The technical part, whatever that means, whether in the accounting realm, right, or the HVAC or the electrician part, as long as you want to learn the technical part of it, like accountant, I want to learn numbers,
right?
That can come. You can learn that. I think social skills have to be developed, and if you have that, even before you decide what trade or what industry you're going into, that's a huge help.
Oh, for sure.
We look for that in our interviewing.
Yep.
Like, can you have a conversation with me?
Yep.
In the interview. That's really huge. So going back to you, machinist is what you thought you were going to be, right? You worked at the phone company.
Yep.
How the heck did you go, striping parking lots is the way to go. That's what I wanted. Because I've never heard of a kid growing up going, these parking lots on this with the stripes, that's what I want to do. I want to paint stripes on these parking lots.
Sure.
How did you get into it?
So my sister's middle school basketball coach ended up being my boss for over 18 years. He owned his own striping business. And when my sister was in middle school, that's the time one of my brothers was graduating from high school, and he graduated that year, needed a job. So my dad was just talking with my sister's coach, and he goes, I need help. Yeah, I'll hire him. And Scott, my older brother, went to work for him. And so he's 6 years older than me. He worked for him like a little off and on in the summer as like an extra job for a couple of years. And then he decided to quit and work for him full time. And about 2 years later, I was graduating, or I was getting close. I think it was my junior year. And I just started doing it as a summer job. But I even before then, before I was striping, I was mowing this guy's grass for him once in a while, and just doing shop work, cleaning stencils. But that summer that I worked for him striping, I just liked it. We were outside. It's always nice. We don't work in bad weather. Sometimes it's cold, but it's not raining.
You always throw on a jacket.
Right. So it was a really good summer gig, and he always had a ton of work for us, and he paid well. So when I got fired at the phone company, I initially went and got a job to use some of my skills I got at a machine shop. And I worked there for 6 months, and it was the most boring job like I ever had. And I'm like, I'm not doing this anymore. And I called Tom up and I asked him, hey, do you have work for me? And he said, yep. He goes, come April 1st, I'll have stuff for you. And so I gave that company I was doing the machine work for about a month's notice. And they were actually moving me up. They were going to put me in charge of their whole mills department.
Okay.
And all the people that were there, and I didn't want to do that. So
it didn't sound too exciting.
No, it was super boring, and it was being in charge of people again, and I wasn't ready to do it again. And honestly, Tom was paying way more.
Oh, wow.
He was paying a lot more to go stripe for him than the machine world was. So I just didn't pass it up. I went, and then I spent 18 years working for him.
That's interesting. 18 years. And he was a basketball coach.
Yeah, he was. I mean, when I first started working for him, people would go play tennis with him. The guys that we worked with played tennis with him. He had a basketball court at the shop that we striped up and played basketball there with him. How many
3-point lines did you have to stripe up, or free throw lines at the time?
Oh man, I've striped so many basketball courts, it's not even funny. Yeah.
That'd be kind of cool. I think I'd dig that.
Yeah, it's actually playground work I really enjoy. We don't do sport courts.
Okay.
They're more, I would say that's nicer work than what we do.
Yeah.
We could do it. We just don't. There's other people that do it and do really good job with it. I stay in my lane with pavement markings and playgrounds and things like that. So, but I do a lot of playground work. We do hopscotches and four squares and basketball courts and all kinds of crazy stuff. So
yeah, and there's something to be said when you stick to that certain lane, the efficiency too, right?
Totally.
Because if you go into a different realm, like if we were to go into, I hate to say it, like microcontrols, even though we have electrical.
Yep.
Microcontrols is something that we're not good at and something we don't practice. We will be so inefficient at it that we'll lose money compared to the people who actually do it all the time, right? There's different things for that. So
yeah, and we're just like, I mean, if I did sport courts, I would have to have a whole nother crew and go after just sport courts to really, like you said, be efficient with it.
Yeah.
But we're set up for parking lot striping, some small like roadway municipality stuff, and we're really efficient at that. So
it's an interesting business because nobody really thinks of like the average homeowner isn't going to typically, unless you come over and like stripe my 3-point line on my driveway, right? But most homeowners aren't going to be. So it's almost a niche business.
Oh, it's very niche. Yeah, like we don't really do. We work with paving companies and seal coating companies and sweepers, and all of those people. A few of them try to do everything in house, but most people that are really efficient, and like the market we're in is extremely competitive. So really, when you whittle down into one niche like paving, right? The pavers don't want anything to do with the striping. We're 1% to 2% of their projects.
Yeah.
So the investment and the time to get people really good at it isn't there for them. So they sub us out.
Yeah.
And like, for the same reason I don't pave is I might be doing $1,200 worth of striping on $500,000 worth of paving.
Yeah.
I don't even sub that stuff out because the risk reward really isn't there, and it's super competitive. I can't add enough to make it worth my time. So if someone calls me and says, "Hey, I need paving done," I just send them to the people that I already work with.
Yeah.
And I know that I'll get the striping on it then.
And you probably get more of that out there in the real world, like more people asking to repave a whole driveway than striping sometimes, because it's kind of like the last thing you think about. And so what's really interesting is I feel like your business, because it's so niche and it's not like, a huge, and Dan, you're going to love this question, Dan. It is almost a world of word of mouth and referrals. This world right now in the business is so obsessed with marketing. Why do you think relationships still win?
Oh, I get more business from word of mouth than I do any other way. The only, like, my pavers are my biggest customers. They send me the most amount of work. When they call, it's like, and they ask me to jump, it's how high, right? So, but when they call you and you show up for them, they want to refer you out. They just do. I don't know how else to put it. When you support someone else's business and you can make them look good, they're more than willing to give your name out.
Yeah, and I think it's easier for like someone like you, especially if you build that relationship, right? Because the reason why I say it's easier for you, I hate to say it, we're not as bad as realtors. I think realtors, you got one on every corner and everybody knows 4 or 5 of them, right?
Sure.
The heating and air industry, some people know 2 or 3 heating and air guys, right? But in all reality, I got to admit, I know quite a few people. I don't have any stripers that I know in my back pocket, right?
Yeah, it's funny because it's just a world. It's just a different world, right? It's the paving and asphalt maintenance industry is its own world. And I know, like last year, I know that there were 8 brand new striping companies in the Twin Cities. And those are just the ones that I knew of last year. There are a lot of us out there, but it's a I don't know what the word is I want to look for. It's a low bar to get into. It's not really super expensive. You can buy a machine for as little as probably, like you could buy a brand new one for as little as $7,500. It's not necessarily where you're going to stay, but you can get in there and get some work. And there's a lot of guys that do it like they do another job, and then on the weekends and at nights they'll go stripe some stuff too.
Yeah.
And some of those guys do a really good job, but because it's super low to get into, some of them don't. All we do is striping. We don't do anything else. We don't try to do anything else, and I don't have any other jobs. So I make it like I budget for 150 working days in the season, and that gets rid of a few weekends here and the rainy weather. So I got to do in 150 days what every other business gets 365 or whatever they budget for, but a whole year,
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Does that answer your question a little bit?
Yeah.
Get off
I
topic
think,
a little.
a little, but it's still, I feel like, you and I met through like a networking group.
Yep.
But I feel like relationships are so important to keep that business driven forward. And
Yeah.
like I said, in a marketing world, like everybody's obsessed with, and I am one of them. I mean, And I think any business owner gets obsessed with it a little bit. Like, how do I keep marketing? How do I keep people flowing in the door, right?
Yeah.
But having this conversation with you and meeting you at the different networking groups, I've started to realize like it's a combination of a few things. And when I asked you like, how does that relationship work for you, right? Like that relationship is so important, especially
Yeah.
if you're not the only, even if you're the only one out there that they know about. But if you don't build a relationship, guess what? They're not going to remember you, right?
Right.
They're not going to say, "Hey, call Dan. I got a guy for you."
Yeah. Well, and I do a lot of cold calls, and you're right. The relationship is huge, and it's like with the property managers, if you can make their life easy, they will use you over and over and over again, even if they're required to get 2 or 3 quotes. And they might be required to take the low bid most of the time, but if you be a little bit higher and you can make their life easy, if you're the easy button for them, they'll keep using you. And like when I do these cold calls, I already have a guy, thanks.
Yeah.
And so I think we joked yesterday, somebody has to almost die in order to get your foot in the door.
Foot the door, yeah.
And a lot of the pavers and the PMs are that way too. They have a guy that does their stuff, and some of them will let you bid on stuff, and some of them don't take a bid from anybody else. I have a few that I work with that I don't think they would get a quote from anybody else unless they were specifically told they had to.
Yeah. And I love the word when you say, you want to be the easy button. What does that actually mean in practice, being the easy button?
Just showing up when you say you're going to be there. If they call you and say, we need you here, you're there, Honestly, it's a lot easier than it's not that difficult. That's, I guess, what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
It's just doing what you say you're going to do.
Yeah. You want them to be able to just call you up and go, it's easy to just call him. He'll get it done for me.
Yep.
He'll find a way.
Yeah. And the other thing is, in construction, a lot of mistakes get made. And I tell my guys, like, it's not that you make the mistake, right? It's how you fix the mistake. And I think it's funny. The difference between a rookie and a veteran is really the only difference is the veteran knows how to hide his mistakes. And by hide them, I don't mean them so that nobody ever sees them, but or get away with something. But okay, we made the mistake. How do we fix it and still make it workable?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And make the customer happy.
Yeah.
And where the rookie has to stop, come find the veteran and say, hey, how do I fix my mistake? Right.
Right.
And that's because the veteran still makes mistakes.
Yeah.
They still do. I make them all the time.
But they know how to handle it through experience. They know how to, whether it's talking to the customer or when it happens, or just like correcting the problem immediately, whether it be like, and I don't know your business, but the young kid might not know, hey, we have a big eraser for that stripe. You just erase it and then come back down and lay it, right?
Yeah, it's called black paint is what it is, really. Yeah. But, like seal coat projects, a lot of times, some of these businesses or buildings have been open for 50 years, right? Yeah. The parking lots have been around for 20 to 30, and they might have changed the striping in there at one point. So you seal coat it, you can see 3 or 4 sets of lines down there. And so when we're there at night, when there's no cars there, what do we do, right? So we're looking at the signs and posts and things that are up, what makes the most sense. We don't always have a plan. Sometimes we can look at Google Earth and we can see what was there. But sometimes the image on Google Earth isn't the most up to date. So we use our best guess and put it down, and we'll still get a phone call. Hey, this was wrong. We changed that last year,
Yeah.
And we just go back and fix it. So
that's great. And I mean, you learned a lot through just growing your business the way you have. But I also, I feel like when our conversation, and that's what I find interesting about you, like, and any business owner, right? Like, how do you grow personally, right? Because you're not that same 19-year-old 25 years ago. And you shared something with me that kind of hit me hard. You said that that you can't take care of everything you're proud of if you don't take care of yourself first. That was a really good line that you told me yesterday.
Yeah.
Was there a specific moment where that finally clicked for you?
Yeah. So I struggled a lot for a long time with self-worth issues and things like that. I ended up doing some therapy, thanks to my wife. She's the one that talked me into going. But I like we talked about, I have a really good work ethic. I take care of my friends, my family. If it used to be, if you'd call me, I would never say no. If you called me and asked me for help, I would never tell you no. That's slightly changed, and not because I don't want to help, but because sometimes I'm just not able to, But in therapy, the one day, my therapist had said to me, like, it's great that you want to do all this stuff, but how the hell do you take care of everybody else in this world that you want to if you don't take care of yourself first? And that was I was a little over 400 pounds at the time. It was a sort of a big wake up call that things need to change, and I had lost weight over 100 pounds 2 other times before and gained it back, but that's when I had sort of made the decision I'm going to go in and do a little more drastic things, lose weight, but I had surgery. I had a gastric sleeve, and did all that. And that's been about 4 years course right now.
Yeah.
I've done pretty good since then. So
You have. You look great, actually.
Yeah, thank you.
Do you think that transformation was more mental or physical?
It was well, physical, but it was all mental. Like, really, the transformation was mental that led to the physical.
Yeah. But even,
I needed what I called forced willpower because I had lost some of the weight before, but I struggle with the maintaining things.
Yeah.
I'm really good at buckling down and getting focused on something. But then when I'm done with that task, I move on to something else. And that's what I would do to myself, right? So I could lose the weight, but then I would focus on something else. And so what I said, we'll focus on losing the weight. We'll get it done. But then I learned what my downfall was. And so with the surgery, it gave me a tool, right? To where if I did drift away, I could never drift that far again.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
No.
It works for me.
Yeah.
I don't know that it's for everybody, but
I think you have to find your own trigger points that make it work. And what I'm learning from this is about 5-10 minutes ago, we were just talking about learning the power to say no, right?
yeah.
And maybe that's what I have to do more of. I have to learn the power of no to that Whopper at Burger King, right?
Yeah, well, and it might not be no. Like, the answer might not always be no, but it's probably not right now. Can you help me this weekend? No, but maybe next weekend, right? Or
I'm trying to relate that to food.
Well, food just has to be a lot of no's.
Yeah.
Food really
And
has to
that's-
be a whole lot of no's.
And it's a hard discipline to get to. And especially with your surgery, I know what it sounds, and I've known people that have it. It's like you can only eat so much, but I've heard that you can keep eating sometimes and just a little more at a time,
So
now
I
you're
was-
back to where you're at.
that was the one thing I was super, super scared about, is they told me 20% of people that have it doesn't work for. They eat right through the surgery. Basically what they do, they can't eat a whole bunch all at once.
Yeah.
They just snack all day. They continuously graze. And so I made sure that I had that surgery right at the end of my work year so that I had all winter off, that I could focus really hard on that and adjusting my diet. And because I don't get to make my own schedule. Everybody thinks when you're your own boss, you all of a sudden get to make your own schedule. I wish I could make my own schedule. I work for 3 or 4 different paving contractors who they make their schedule, and I work when their stuff's ready. Like, that's it, you know? And then the work that I get for my customers, I schedule around that. So in the summer, I may get a phone call, hey, we forgot about this one. And when they're one of my biggest customers, I stop what I'm doing and I go get that done, right? So I made sure that I scheduled my surgery at the end of the year, that I could focus on myself really well and get through that winter, right?
Yeah.
And get that mindset changed, so that I could get through the next summer. And then I got through that summer, and then winter came around. I was starting to slide back into some different things because work does that to me every year. Winter came around and I focused really hard on myself again. And what is it? I forget the saying, but small habits make bigger habits, or something like that. So it's a work in progress. I still find myself sliding backwards, and then I have a lot more grace for myself than I ever used to.
Yeah.
And that's certainly thanks to my wife and God for bringing me, like my wife brought me to Jesus, and then I've sort of delved a lot more into that too over the years. So it's been a whole mind shift and everything. Yeah.
You've brought your wife in this a couple times, so I got to ask you, what did your wife see in you first before you even saw it in yourself?
No idea. That's a really good question. I ask myself that all the time. My wife has basically 2 master's degrees. Mm-hmm. She was a single mother for a while before I met her. She was previously married. I don't want to get into what happened. I don't know if she would appreciate it if I did or not.
No, we don't need to get into that.
Yep,
I just think there's something about you that you figured out that she helped you with.
I know the story that she tells all of our friends, so I know that one's safe to tell, which is I was not a believer, so she didn't want anything to do with me. And she talks to God all the time, and God said, nope, this is the one for you. And she didn't want any, she really didn't want anything to do with me, but God kept telling her to hang in there. And I'm really glad she did, because I've changed a lot. I don't want to say because of her, but without her, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
Right. I wouldn't be in this position.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
And just from talking and actually knowing you for these years, I know you're a very hard worker.
Yep.
And then plus you were, that hard work ethic has never left you. But I also have, when we've talked, I can tell that, hard work sometimes can make you unhealthy sometimes. How do you think that comes about?
Oh, it's putting everything in. It's putting the work that you have in front of yourself first, right? And I still find myself doing that all the time. Though now I get up at 4:30 or 5 every morning so that I can do my stuff uninterrupted.
Yeah.
Which is, it might be, a little bit in the Bible, or it literally might be sitting out by the pool on a nice morning and going for a few laps. But like I make sure in the morning, my wife she's not an early riser, so I can get up before the phone starts ringing and before she's up, and then I can do my own stuff. And it's taken that time for myself. That's really, like, that is the only way to do it, is to make sure that I have something for me, even if it's a cup of coffee by the pool in the morning, every day.
That's really awesome. And everything I've read too about self-care, leadership, it's about taking care of yourself first.
Yep.
And making sure you give yourself that space to do that. I have to do that at a higher level, I feel like.
Yeah, and it's not easy. Like, you really have to you have to schedule it, right? And I find myself, like, we work a lot of overnights. Sometimes I get dragged into working a lot later than I have to. Like last week, was really our first big week this season, and my guy was sick. I know he didn't want to be, but he was sick, and so I had to fill in for him. And so I didn't get my me time last week, but that's okay. It's like, we're just in that time of year, or it's a season. I'll have that time for me coming up.
It's just making it intentional too afterwards, right? Like, once you get there, sometimes, like, I've been working so hard. It's so much easier to sleep in now, right?
And I'm
making it intentional.
I'm so forgetful, like, squirrel when I'm off looking at something else.
Yeah.
So if I don't schedule it, I won't do it.
Yeah.
Right. And I still find myself putting those things that I want to do at the back of the list.
Yeah.
So if I don't schedule them, they don't get done.
Wow. Lot to digest.
Yep.
No pun intended with we get weight gain.
Yeah.
But we're gonna go to a break right now and we'll come back.
Okay, right on.
At Twin City Tales Podcast, we believe in strong communities are built by people and organizations willing to care for others. That's why we are proud to support Hammer and NER, an incredible Minnesota nonprofit helping adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities live life to the fullest. Their work creates opportunity, dignity, independence, and connection right here in our community. If you'd like to help, Hammer and NER is always looking for volunteers, advocates, and donations to continue their mission. I am one of those people that highly help that community out. Learn more, get involved, or give back at hammer.org. Together, we can continue building a stronger, more compassionate community for everyone. Ever walk into a house and flip a switch and have no idea what it actually does? Like, is it a light, an outlet, or something in the garage? Nobody knows. Or what about when you plug in something into an outlet and it just slowly falls out like it's giving up on life? Or worse, the outlet just doesn't work at all. Well, we see that stuff every day. At Twin City Heating, Air, and Electric, we help homeowners take care of those small electrical issues before they turn into bigger problems. Loose outlets, dead plugs, mystery switches, we'll track it down, fix it right, and make your home actually work the way it's supposed to. So if something feels off electrically, it probably is. Twin City Heating, Air, and Electric, built here, stays here. Feel the difference. Hey, if you're enjoying this episode, do me a quick favor. If you're listening or watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button right now. It seriously helps us reach more amazing people like Dan and people that find this show in the Twin Cities and beyond. And if you're on Apple, Spotify, and feeling a little generous today, drop us a rating or review it. Only takes a minute, but it makes a huge difference in helping new listeners discover Twin City Tales. That's how this community grows. In any case, at least smash that like button on any of those platforms. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook at Twin City Tales for behind the scenes moments, episode updates, special announcement, and all the fun stuff you don't get to see on the mic. We appreciate you more than you know. And remember, you can't go wrong with Wymond on the Twin City Tales podcast. And this is the portion of the show where we bring on some pictures. Some of you've seen, some of you might not remember, but I'm going to show you the first one. And I just love the love of animals. So is that your puppy?
Yeah, that's Mr. Mavericks.
And how's Mr. Mavericks doing?
Oh, Maverick, he's good. He's awesome. He's my favorite. He's my buddy. We have 4 dogs. They all were my wife's dogs. We had to keep getting one until I finally got one. So we got them all for me, but they all ended up hers. So then Maverick, we finally got Maverick, and he's mine.
Were they always mid-sized dogs, or did you get big dogs, or were you
never anything huge?
Dog?
We've had 4 Cocker Spaniels over the years, and then 2 Springers, and then there was Miki or something mixed in there somewhere, but he didn't fit in with the crew. He started a lot of fights, so we ended up having to rehome him. So
it's amazing how dogs like really bond to people, or they have their own personality, right?
Yeah, they're members of the family.
Yes, for sure, sure.
I would defend my dogs as much as I would defend my children. So
this one is an amazing picture. I'm like, wow, what a transformation.
I was wondering if that one was going to come out. Yeah.
Ooh.
That was shortly before my surgery. It was probably a year before.
You were a big boy.
Yeah, I was a big dude.
You didn't miss too many meals there.
No, I got every one of them. Yeah. I ate other people's a few times too, I think. So
I always like to say, I need to mix a few salads in my diet. You need to mix more than a few salads in your diet at that point. But
yeah. The problem was I love salads. Salads are delicious. Fat people love salads too.
You just got to cut down on the taco meat on the salad. When you have the taco salad, I load up with tacos, the meat and the beans and what really kills you is the bowl, right? Like you eat all the bowl, but you leave all the nutritional stuff aside sometimes.
I ate everything. I didn't leave anything out. No, I clean plate club, man. I ate it all.
That's awesome.
Yep.
One thing we were talking about during the break was that the discipline in working through some of that because looking at you now compared to that picture, it takes a lot of discipline after the gastric bypass. Tell us a little more about that.
Yeah. So the gastric sleeve, when I made my choice, I sort of went right to it. I'm like, I know what I got to do. I needed help. Because like I said, I'd lost over 100 pounds 2 other times. And I was successful, but never in keeping it off. So I had learned that my trick is staying on track. Like that's what I needed help with. And so it was forced. I told everyone I needed forced willpower, right? In those moments when I would drift. So, and I still knew like I wasn't changing careers. I just know the way this business is, and as busy as it gets, I'm going to drift. So, the surgery, but one of the things I was most scared about was they said some people eat right through the surgery. So I made sure that I had that surgery at the end of a season so that I could really focus on getting my mind and changing my habits. So I had a good solid 5 months to do that before I got wrapped up in another season of striping.
And then we talked about some of one of your fears was the cooking part.
Yeah.
Because that's one of your therapeutics.
Yeah, I like to cook.
Get through stuff.
I like to do a lot of different things, but cooking is one of those things that you always got to eat, right? And I was worried that it might take that joy from me if I did do that, and it didn't. It honestly, it didn't take anything from me. It gave me way more than I've gotten so much more since I've lost the weight than I ever lost, right? All I lost was weight. I didn't lose anything else.
Yeah, but the cooking part you were worried about. That was like one of your biggest fears.
It really was. It was because it's one of those things I can come home from a day of work and still do something like creative, right? Because I can't bake. Baking is science, and baking is all about measurements and like having to follow directions, and cooking is like jazz, where you just make it up as you go and you can still make something good. And that's what I like doing. I get to use that creative part of my brain because striping's sort of the same way. There's nothing creative in it. I follow a plan, and I enjoy doing it and I'm good at it. But I need the creative part. So, and cooking was that for me, for sure.
Interesting. Wow.
And honestly, that whole trip is all about cooking. We were out salmon fishing on Lake Michigan, catching salmon that I could cook later. So.
Oh, that's awesome. Mm-hmm. How big of a haul did you? Was it like right after the what do they call that, the season?
So that's the spring coho.
Okay.
So I think we limited out in like 3 hours. We probably brought 50, 60 pounds of fish home, something like that. Wow. Maybe more.
And was that that at that time? I'm not a big fisherman, but is that the time when the salmon is at its like peak? Like,
no, I honestly I think the best time to go to Lake Michigan is probably like July or August for the kings, because the kings are big.
Yeah.
You can get a 20, 25 pound king if you're lucky. The cohos are small. They're 3 to 5 pounds maybe.
But isn't the meat not as like, it's a little more, should I say the texture of it is more mushier when you get into deeper summer? Like, I feel like the best is like right after winter or the springtime.
I don't think it matters with the salmon.
It doesn't matter.
There's other fish that do like I know bass. If you like bass fishing, I'll eat bass in the spring, but not so much in the summer.
Well, walleye too. Walleye fish is like the best
better
ones
when it's cold.
Yeah, like people that get that do ice fishing.
Yep.
Again, I'm not a big fisherman, but if they get a walleye ice fishing, I'll take that if you're giving it away.
Yeah, I think for freshwater fish, and it's not to say that those salmon aren't freshwater because they're in one of the Great Lakes.
Yeah.
But I'll be honest, I've gone salmon fishing in Alaska. The salmon out of Lake Michigan are better.
Gotcha.
And it doesn't matter the time of year to me. I think they taste better out of Lake Michigan than they do from Alaska.
That sounds fun, man.
Yeah, it's a good time.
And your other one, this gives you a little different profile, and that's a picture of you and your
That's my wife. Yep, Yadira.
Nice.
Yep.
And when was that? That looks like your wedding?
That was our wedding. Yep. We sort of we were already engaged, but we decided to get married early. I needed to have a surgery, and I didn't have any health insurance. She did. So we got married and just decided to get married earlier than what we had originally planned. But that's...
It sounded like a little like me. I only married my wife for the health insurance. Because we're business owners, so we know how hard it is.
I definitely married up. She's the smart one of the two.
That's awesome.
She would say it differently, but we both are smart, just in very different ways.
Yeah.
She loves to read. She reads everything. She has 2 master's degrees. I married up for sure.
Are you like she likes to read? Yeah. My wife likes to read.
Yeah.
But when we go see a movie and it's been in book form, my wife always comes out of the movie going, that was kind of disappointing.
Every time.
I read the book. I'm like, and that's why I don't read the book, because I'd never be disappointed in a movie because I'll get my value.
She tells me all the time, "Oh, you'd like this book. You should read it." And I'll say, "I'll wait till the movie comes out."
Exactly, because I don't want to be disappointed. I'm paying $15 for this movie.
It's she gives me a hard time because I don't read stories. I read lots of stuff, but I don't read stories. I don't know why. I read about motors. I read about things that interest me, hunting, fishing. I'm not a story person. I love movies, but I don't like reading novels.
I'll do Audible books more than anything else, and I love history Audibles.
Yes.
That's the one thing I do is history.
And the stories that I do like are like, if I am going to read something like 1776, that David McCullough. It's fiction, but it's based in truth.
Yeah.
I really like those if I'm going to read something. But most often I do those on audiobook too.
I have to admit, I did go to the theater for Hamilton. It was really super good, right? But it was based on the book Hamilton.
Yep. Okay.
And I listened to the audiobook. I think I was sleeping after the first half hour on
it. My wife loves theater. My oldest son was really big into theater, so we do a lot of theater stuff.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
She likes it more than I do. I don't dislike it. I have my tastes. Right?
Yeah.
So
I have to admit, I do like the theater quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I was never a theater guy 15 years ago. And my love of the theater is, I think it's more intimate when you're actually in the theater and they're doing a live performance.
For sure.
So you're really into it. That's why I would rather do a theater than a movie. And maybe I might be a little bit biased, but one of my favorite people is like dating my son, Dan, who's behind the cameras. He's his girlfriend is Daisha Ramsey, who actually performs at the Chanhassen Dinner Theater.
Okay.
And they're doing Guys and Dolls right now. She's an amazing dancer, so
okay.
I love that whole thing.
It's funny you say that. My wife, I was actually supposed to go to that last week, and I scheduled a job in front of it, and I wasn't able to make it. But my wife went with our friends anyways. So.
It was a good show.
Yeah.
And like I said, Daisha's in it, and she does a fantastic job.
Yeah, they loved it. So
yeah, it was really good. Catch the movie, or the movie on because it's a movie from 19.
I've heard of it. I don't think I've ever seen it.
You know who's in it? Frank Sinatra and Marlon Brando.
Oh, okay.
Both are the co-stars of that movie.
I would probably like it then.
And that movie actually caused them to hate each other. Like, you'll never see them in another movie together again.
Oh, in real life.
In real life.
Causes them to hate each other.
Yes. Frank Sinatra didn't get the Playboy role, Sky Masterson.
Oh, okay.
And Sky Masterson was played by Marlon Brando, but Marlon Brando couldn't sing.
Oh, sure.
Like he could in that movie somewhat, but they take like 15,000 takes to get it and then chop them up to make them sound good. But apparently that was the deal. And so there was a lot of animosity there between the two, from what I understand.
Interesting.
And then they made it through the movie. And you never saw them in another movie together again. And they were never friends.
Interesting. I don't know much about old movie personalities, but I think Marlon Brando, if I remember, was hard to work with.
That's what I heard too. Yeah. Because the one movie that I always remember him from is The Godfather, where he was the dad.
Yep.
Yeah. Pretty intense show, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. The Godfather is fantastic, though.
Yeah. All right. And this is one of you having lost all that weight, I believe.
When was that? That was probably last year, maybe 2 years ago.
Right after your bypass?
Probably a year at least after. A year and a half, maybe 2 years.
Because there you look great. I
mean,
you really look like you did a great job there. So.
Yeah, you sort of you come down really fast and then you gain a little bit back. So and you lose weight in like your face and other things first, I think. So yeah, that was probably about a year after, something like that. Yeah. But that's my daughter Ad and I. So
that's awesome.
And my wife, yeah.
That's awesome. And this picture, this was interesting.
Oh. That is me as Drew Carey.
Yeah.
For Halloween.
You were close.
Yeah.
Really close.
Really? I was just as big as he was at one point, too. Yeah, we both lost a lot of weight.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, very amazing.
Yeah, we used to do, my friends used to do huge Halloween parties, and they were a lot of fun.
Yeah, and you're clean shaven and the whole bit.
Yeah, that's a long, long time ago, man.
I want to say I did pull it from your Facebook page. It was 2009, I think.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Okay.
Let me ask you this. I couldn't find any pictures when we were younger.
Probably not a lot out there.
Right after you got fired as 19 years old as like the manager or the one in charge.
Yep.
If you could go back, what advice would you tell them? Because you're probably at that time, once you got fired, you were probably like going, oh my gosh, am I really cut out for being a leader, right? And it showed after a few years. So if you could go back and give that young man advice, Dan, what would it be?
It would have, I think it would be not to hide, because I think that's really what I ended up doing. It's not what I intended to do, but it is what I ended up doing. I got really comfortable in that striping job for the other guy, and I stayed there way too long. Like it's a great trade to have learned, but I definitely stayed there too long.
Did you really say you stayed there too long, or do you feel like the more you stayed, the more you learned about what you needed to do?
No, I stayed there far, far, far too long.
At Minnesota Stripes?
Yeah. Not at Minnesota. It was a different striping company.
A different striping company.
Yeah. I should have moved on from there. Like, I probably needed 7 years there was good.
Was that your friend, your dad, your sister's basketball coach?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and it was a good place to work.
Yeah.
But there was nowhere to go. It was too small of a company. There wasn't, like, after 5 to 7 years, I had learned everything that place was going to teach me.
And you left there, how long ago did you leave there?
Right before I started my business. So 2018 was my last year there.
Is he still around, or
he retired 2 years ago? Okay.
Did he sell the business, or did he?
He closed up shop and auctioned everything off.
Wow. You didn't go in and just say, "Hey, let me."
It wasn't an option. He wasn't going to do it.
Interesting.
No. So he helped me get started. Sold me my truck and well, I didn't take the truck, but he sold me the trailer and the machines, and he gave me some work to help pay that stuff off. And he did the same thing for another guy. And then the few employees that were left, he helped them get started if they wanted to too. So he sort of gave them some work and divvied it up that way, but he sold the equipment to them, but he didn't sell the business. He just sort of closed up shop and walked away. At least that's my understanding. I didn't really talk to him a whole lot about it. He holds a lot of stuff real close to the vest. He's a super nice guy. He'll have a conversation with you, but he won't tell you much. you know.
And that probably doesn't
so-
help in business sometimes if you're going to buy a business like that.
Yeah,
But
you know,
it's interesting.
well, and to be honest, part of the reason I was ready to go was I don't have anything bad to say about him except that in the end I didn't like the way things were done there anymore.
Yeah.
And so I struggle with looking at the way he did things now because they worked.
Right.
And you don't want to recreate the wheel, right? With
Yeah.
someone who was very successful because
Yep.
he was extremely successful. But I don't want to run my business the same way.
Yeah.
It wasn't healthy for me to work in that environment. I don't think it's healthy to have other people in that environment in the same way. And so I just want to do things differently. And it's not I don't know how to say it. I don't want to sound like I'm ungrateful because he helped me out a lot, right?
Right.
He did a lot of stuff for me over the years. I got hit by a drunk driver while I was striping, working for him, and he paid me without ever having to take money from insurance or anything else. Like he paid me, he didn't have to. So
Wow.
he was a really good guy to work for. It just I needed to move on from there. Yeah.
No, that's
So-
what a great story, and where you're at today. You know, we're always where we're supposed to be. So,
Yeah. Yep.
uh, who is someone you would love to hear on this podcast, and why?
We have a guy at our church, Rich Barr, who is he'd do well with this. This would be a good thing for him. He's a super interesting guy. And then even my pastor Joe would be really interesting to be on here too.
What do you find amazing about those two guys?
Rich, I don't know super well, but I know he ran a successful business here in the Twin Cities, and I believe he mentors people still now. And he also he runs a bunch of charities. So it's one thing I'm looking at doing with my own business. So I value that, and I see that in him. So I've heard him on other stuff. He's just an interesting guy. My pastor is just a lot of fun. He's got a really good story. He's really passionate about what he does, and I just like I like listening to him on Sundays, and he'd be good to listen to anytime. So
Well, it sounds like two people with a servant mentality, and
very much so.
I think I really like the idea of servant leadership is huge for me, as what I always see is the best way to go with your leadership. You know? So
yeah.
And of course, it wouldn't be a fun podcast if I didn't bring out a couple gifts for you.
Oh, okay.
So
Right on.
I'm gonna. What would a podcast be as a gift from an Asian guy if it wasn't fortune cookies, right? So you can share that with your family, friends, and
That's
plenty of fortune to your business at Minnesota Stripes.
Right on. My daughter's gonna love those.
And of course, the other thing is, and I got it. We will give you a correction on that, but your own trophy.
Right on. Perfect. Thumbs
So,
up. I
a
love
thumbs
it.
up. You are awesome. Thank you for being on the show.
Yep.
And a $25 gift card
Sweet.
to
Texas Road.
Texas Roadhouse.
Perfect.
Man, I couldn't spit it out.
That's all right.
Yeah, you
Well-
take your date there or your wife there on a date night, you know.
Mother's Day is this weekend.
Mother's Day is
and
coming up.
I believe so. My wife served in the military. She has a gift card to use from Veterans Day last year.
Oh,
and I'll
nice.
get to use this, and we'll have a free dinner. That'll be perfect.
Beautiful.
So yeah.
Well, I can't thank you enough again for being on the show, Dan. And if you want to learn more about Dan Langton, you can visit MinnesotaMenStripes.com. That's MNStripes.com. Or visit us at the Twin City Tales Facebook page, and we will post it on there. As we roll out of here, I want to thank Chris Hockey for the use of his song "Thanks" with no pun intended. This podcast is powered by Twin City Heating, Air, and Electric, and now with water treatment systems. And remember, you can't go wrong with Wymond and Twin City Tales podcast.
This song goes out to my family, to all the ones who died before me. I'm sure the family life So I wrote this song to say thank